Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Gotham Baseball Live. I'm Mark Healey, and my co-host, as he is each and every week, the great Peter Schwartz. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mark. Good to be with you, and happy Subway Series Day
Yes.
One for 2026.
Yeah, I'm excited. The Mets finally woke up a little bit. They're 8-4 in May. A pitching matchup tonight too, with Cam Schlittler for the Yankees and Clay Holmes for the Mets. And as we go into this year, like 2 weeks ago, I'm looking at, oh my God, the Mets are going to get swept at home. But now I'm feeling like at least we have a really good series ahead of us, huh, Peter?
Yeah, I a lot of times you can get a feel of how the series is going to go by how the teams are playing coming into it, and
Right.
sometimes the Mets are hot, sometimes the Yankees are hot. In this case, the Mets are coming off a sweep. The Yankees have lost 5 of 6. I thought if you looked at this 2 weeks ago, there probably wouldn't have been much juice to
Right.
the series. But I think now the fact that the Mets are starting to play better, they've won 8 of their last 12. The Yankees are slumping, but they're still the Yankees. So I do think it adds a little bit of juice to the game. I wish tonight's game was not on Apple so I could watch it, but it is what it is. Thinking about maybe a 1 day subscription and then canceling it, but we'll see. But I do think there's a lot of buzz about this, and I think the buzz is generated by the fact that the Mets have kind of gotten their act together, and they've done it with a little bit of the fountain of youth too.
Yeah. Well, look, when you think about where Carson Bench was to start the season, and now how well he's playing. And AJ Ewing, has come up and just been just an absolute, like elixir for the
Yeah.
team. But the other thing too, and I posted this earlier. What was lost in all the baby Met stuff, which I hate, by the way, um, is the fact that Vientos and Brett Beatty both hit big home runs in that game, and with them both playing every day, with Beatty at third base every day now, and Vientos at first base, they're starting to get comfortable, regardless of Vientos's adventure the other night at first base. It's just like he is just mind-boggling to watch over there. But their bats are both starting to kind of become part of the offense little by little here in May. And I think playing those positions that Vientos obviously never played it really before this season. He only played a few games, but he's starting to get comfortable over there, even if it's an adventure every time the ball's hit to him. But,
Yeah.
Beatty's a good third baseman, so I'm sure that that's playing a little bit into it as well.
Yeah, and they've been fun to watch. Earlier in the season, they were a mess, an absolute mess. And
Right.
this is why when they say, "Well, it's only April, it doesn't matter," but when you lose 12 games in a row, it really puts you behind the 8 ball. And I and
Yep.
I know it's been noted out there many places. No team has ever lost 12 games in a row during a season and has made the playoffs. The Mets are going to try to, finally be the one that does it. But at least it's encouraging that they're winning. It's encouraging that they're getting contributions from younger players. You're starting to see guys that you expected to contribute finally coming through. And we'll see if it's enough to kind of at least get them back in the discussion for a wild card spot. I mean, that's at this point of the season, that's all you can hope. And again, it leads to this first round of the Subway Series and adding a little bit of juice because at least now now there's a new sense of optimism around the Mets against their crosstown rivals who are coming into the series not playing well at all.
Well, look, and we all know, based on the history of this, Subway series, which I love. I mean, I get into it every year regardless. Based on some of those moments that we've seen, it really doesn't matter what the record is. Like one of my favorite
Right.
moments, obviously, was Dave Malicki in the old Yankee Stadium in the first game ever, shutting out the Yankees, who were like on their way to, obviously being awesome. And the Mets
Yeah.
were, like running in place. That Dave Malicki shutout, that complete game shutout was awesome. I'm sure
I
you
was
have some
there.
great,
I was
oh,
there.
really? I'm
Yeah.
sure you have some great memories too.
Yeah. So I listed I wrote down a couple of them, and that was one of them. Even though the Yankees lost the game, it was still obviously a memory because it was the first ever regular season game between the two teams. I had been to Mayor's Trophy games. My
Sure.
dad took me as a kid, went with friends until they stopped doing it. But that night, Yankee Stadium was electric, and I there were a lot of Met fans there last
Yeah.
that night. Obviously, it being a Yankee home game, it doesn't really matter. Met fans find their way in, Yankee fans find their way into Shea or to Citi Field. But the building was electric that night, and it wasn't electric very long into the game because the Yankees didn't do much of anything. The Met fans kind of took over the building that night. But I think it was significant because it was the first one, and you wondered, how it was, you knew the Yankee Met games would be good. You knew that, Dodgers Angels would have buzz. I just think some of the other interleague action that we've had over the years kind of leaves a lot to be desired, and there's no other way to do it. You have to have everybody playing against everybody. But I do think, regardless of how good or bad the teams have been, it's been a fun thing to watch every single year. What do you like better? Because there was a time where there were 3 games at Yankee Stadium, then the next year there were 3 games at Shea. So they've done that. Then they had 3 and 3. They also had the 4-game series that was during the week where there were 2 games in one place and 2 games in the other. Which format did you like? I like the 3 and the 3.
I like the 3 and 3 too. I remember my 2 memories. My 40th birthday, there was a surprise party for me at Mickey Mantle's restaurant where I used to do the Live from Mickey Mantle's podcast.
Yeah.
And it was in between the game at Yankee Stadium and the game at Citi Field. So I always remember that. I don't remember much about the games that day, but I remember, it being like just a great day at Mickey Mantle's. But my biggest memory, my most favorite memory of the Subway Series was certainly not the 2000 World Series, but in 1999, the Matt Franco walk-off hit. And the reason it's so memorable is because that was also the day of the Women's World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at every year we have the Greco family picnic, which is, 60 plus years and going every single year. My mom's family, the Grecos, we get together, we have this big family picnic, and it was at my cousin Michael's house. And at one point, we were all sneaking inside to watch the Met game, and all of a sudden we come in and they're watching soccer, and I'm like, "What are we watching? What are you, nuts?" So we actually wound up going outside and listening to the game outside, and it was just like I just remember that day. Walking, I'm like, we're watching soccer? The Mets are playing the Yankees. Now, I know you love soccer, and I know that I know the Women's World Cup is much bigger for the soccer folks, over a regular season Mets-Yankees game. But I'll never forget that. That was hilarious.
Well, I was at that game too, and I was at that game with a buddy of mine at Shea, and the Yankees took that lead, into the 9th inning, and we left our seats and started to walk towards one of the ramps. I think we were in the loge level that day. And so we were like standing by because I wanted to get to the car and I wanted to get the hell out of there.
Right.
I'm like, oh, we'll just stand here and wait for the game to be over. And then, the Mets come back and they win the game. We still ran out of there, but I was more miserable than I was happy at that point. The other moment that I wrote down in the Subway Series was in 2003. So they were playing the 3 and 3. And we had tickets for the games at Shea, the Saturday game at Shea, and then the Saturday game at Yankee Stadium. The Saturday game got rained out, and that forced a day-night doubleheader. So girlfriend at the time, Cheryl, now wife, we went to both games. We went to Yankee Stadium in the afternoon, but the way we were able to get around everywhere is we took the Long Island Railroad into the city, went down to the South Street Seaport, took the boat to Yankee Stadium,
Nice.
Boat back to then we switched jerseys at South Street Seaport. She put her home Mets on, I put my away Yankees on, and then we met my in-laws at Shea Stadium for the night game. So that was a very, very memorable day, although it was more memorable for me because my wife was miserable because the Yankees swept both games. That was the game also at night at Shea. The Yankees led off the game. Soriano and Jeter led off with back-to-back home runs.
Yeah, what a great day. It was so much fun to watch that. And what's funny, Pete, my dad hates the Yankees. My son, Jack, you've talked to Jack. He hates the Yankees. Yeah. And I'm the only one who, I don't hate. I mean, I've covered them. I enjoy when the Yankees win as long as it's not against the Mets. I don't have any hatred in my heart.
Yeah. I'm the same way about the Mets. I'm the same way about the Mets. I have no hatred.
It's
So
just look, I just think it's fun. The Subway Series is fun. And I always look at it as, like one of those things where, baseball for me is an everyday thing. It's
mhm.
every day, even in the off season. All I'm thinking about sports wise, whether my Falcons are doing well, and I'm sure that you're the same way with the Jets. I'm more of a baseball fan than anything else. It's
Yeah.
been such a huge part of my life, and that's why, like, when I get the opportunity to go to other ballparks, and you're a pro at that, going to see other teams play. I remember the first time I went to go see the Long Island Ducks, and I had such a fun time. I talked with Buddy Harrelson, and it was just so exciting. It was so, like, geared to the kids. So I'm really happy today that we're going to have to look. I know you're a hardworking guy. I like to think of myself as a hardworking guy, right? But
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you, the guy that's coming up right now,
Yeah.
to me, Brian Heyman, for Newsday. To me, Brian Heyman is the hardest working sports writer in America. This guy does everything. Brian Heyman, how are you? Welcome to the show, my friend.
Happy to be here. How you doing, Mark?
I'm great. And look, I like I said as in your intro, you are the hardest working sports writer, and you have been for, like, I can't say how many years. I remember the first time I met you, and I've always followed you, whether you're covering high school sports for Newsday or college or minor league baseball or the Ducks. So it's a real pleasure to have you on the show today.
I'm very happy to be here with you guys, and I only know one way to go about doing things. So yes, I put a little time into it, but it's an enjoyable career.
And Brian, yeah, Peter here. Thanks again for coming on the show today. I've always appreciated Brian, as you mentioned, Mark, just his versatility in
Yes.
everything he covers. And one thing I will always appreciate is that not only has he covered, pro sports, but he covers the high school sports as well. And he even covered a game that my son played in, a football game, a playoff game a few years ago. So we always have that in common. There was that Mepham MacArthur playoff game a few years ago.
Your son's a great long snapper, so I'm happy to be there. Yeah, one thing about me is I like doing a lot of different things, and I've always have, and I try to treat everything that I'm doing that particular day as the most important thing in the world that day.
Mm-hmm.
And, what I'm writing about means a lot to the people involved, whether they're young or professional. So I take it very seriously. I think my I've even had to cover a 3-year-old trying to set like a world record in like a standing jump or whatever. And that kid was a tough interview, you guys. I needed a little media training, but fortunately the mom was very talkative, so that was good.
The story, though, that you've been paying a lot of attention to recently has been involving the Long Island Ducks, and as Trevor Bauer coming back to the States, and maybe this is his last shot at finally convincing a major league team to give him a chance. But he joins the Long Island Ducks during training camp. He has been nothing but a model citizen. He's pitched so well, and it's been kind of a phenomenon here on Long Island. How much fun has it been for you to cover the Trevor Bauer story?
It's been interesting. You have this famous name who is very controversial in his way and had brought a little baggage to Long Island, or a lot of baggage. But he's kind of you know been on his best behavior. And he's been very accommodating to the fans. I was there the uh, preseason finale at the ballpark in Central Islip, and he was supposed to sign for 15 minutes, autographs. The line was like from near on the concourse, from near home plate all the way down to the left field corner where he was. He signed every last autograph. He's been coming out after starts. He's been signing, for 30 minutes in the chill. So it's been interesting, not just just watching him at a close-up level, because he won a Cy Young Award in the abbreviated 2020 season with the Reds. He's been an All-Star in the past, and here he is. And he has a great social media following.
Oh yeah.
And I wrote about that for today, and it'll be in Sunday's Newsday as well. It's online right now, and he has over like 3.3 million followers on his sites. He's producing content. He's mic'd up for these games, and for better or worse, because but he'll put it out there. He can be unfiltered, and he had a kind of a on-field argument with an umpire, and uh, I think 2 home starts ago, and it was and it had a little profanity in it, but it's out there, and he puts his content out there. I think the big thing is I think he sincerely wants to help kids, kid pitchers, and give advice online. And I don't think he wants to be here if he had his choice to be in the major leagues. But at the moment, he's making the best of the situation.
So, people ask me, when I tweeted out your story this morning, a couple of people were like, why are you going to talk about Trevor Bauer? And I'll say I said the same thing to Peter. And, look, it's a story, whether you love him or hate him, whether you think he deserves to come back to the major leagues or not. That's up to you. I mean, I've certainly interviewed more than my share of troubled players that have found, a refuge or an oasis with the Ducks. I remember having a chat with Carl Everett on the field with the Ducks and certainly other players. I remember when Gary Carter was the manager of the Ducks and interviewing him and his, he wasn't certainly a controversial figure like Bauer is, but certainly a guy that was looking to get a major league coaching job, major league, managing job. And Frank Bolton was always so happy to accommodate, some of those guys over the years. And certainly it helps fill the seats. And, Trevor Bauer is no different. I mean, obviously the people are, lining up to get his autograph as you mentioned. And I know as Peter has talked about as well. But for me, my question, how has he been with those guys in the clubhouse, the other players? Do the players resent the fact that Trevor's getting all this all this attention or how has he been with his teammates? Is he standoffish? How has that dynamic been with Trevor Bauer and the rest of the Long Island Ducks?
Well, from what I've talked to a few players, and I talked to his catcher, Gavin Collins, who was in AAA with the Cardinals last year in Memphis, and he said he's been a great teammate, that he's been very open. He has a lot of knowledge that from 10 years in the majors, and that he's been very willing to share anything, and that people are not hesitant to come up to him and ask, what do you think about this or that? So I think he's been helpful in that regard. He did have a reputation, which he kind of poked fun at, or not fun, but just, I don't know what the word is. He said, because he was online after one of his starts, he's pitching a proposal over X to Major League Baseball, any team, sign me for free. I'll go to low A. I'll work my way up. If I cause any problems in the clubhouse or PR goes haywire, just cut me. It's no risk. But he got no traction out of that. So, and he did use the term clubhouse cancer because he knows that that's been put out there as a reputation for himself. But that has not manifested itself so far in this situation on Long Island. He's in the Atlantic League, and it's a partner league with MLB, but it's not affiliated ball. The team has had more than 120 players just been plucked out of there by major league organizations since it started. They started playing in 2000. And even he's had 3 teammates so far that have been signed with major league organizations and sent to the minors, and another to Mexico. So there's, I want to say that there's an opportunity here, but, there's so much surrounding him that I don't know if there's an opportunity here. After his last start, he strikes out 15. And he sets the Ducks all-time record.
Right.
And I said to him after the game, "Do you think this is the thing that gets you noticed to get you back into affiliated ball?" And it's a few days later, it has not been the thing to get him back.
Right.
He pitched a
Right.
no hitter at
Right.
Lancaster, 7 innings, so he's been pretty dominant since his first start. First start, no spring training, went 4 innings, gave up 2 runs, but now he's 4-1, ERA 1.41, and I think he's struck out 49 in 32 innings or something like that, and so he's dominating at this level. Um, the guys he's pitching to are not Juan Soto. But uh, you know, they do have minor league experience. Some have been in Major League Baseball. A lot of them are just on their last legs, just playing. A lot of them are looking to be discovered again. So, would he have the same success now at the major league level? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he could be helpful just because he knows how to pitch. He has so many pitches. He still has a great curveball. Velocities, a lot of times I look on the scoreboard, I see 93, 94, 95. He has been up to 98 or 99, probably averages about 94 and a half miles per hour. So I there's a need for pitching in Major League Baseball. So, but again, he remains here in the Atlantic League.
Look, there's no question, Brian. And I was at the PA mic, the other night for the 15 strikeout game. I was in the seats with my family on opening night. The guy can still pitch. I don't think there's a question that he can pitch. It's just a question of, is there going to be a major league organization that's going to give him a chance? And the thought that came into my mind is that during the offseason, the Ducks were sold. Frank Bolton sold the team to Rev Entertainment. And for those people who don't know what Rev Entertainment is, it is the entertainment arm of the Texas Rangers. So, not that I'm, a conspiracy theorist here at all, but I'm wondering, because Rev bought the Ducks, they own the Ducks, they had to sign off on Trevor Bauer coming to Long Island. I wonder if that team that could potentially give him a chance would be the Texas Rangers, because they're kind of the most closely affiliated major league team to what he's doing right now. Have you heard anything about that from the Rev people? Could the Rangers be the team that gives him a chance?
I've not heard anything about that. I think it's just going to take one owner who doesn't really care, that he comes with a reputation of being outspoken, a reputation, well, also having this, gigantic suspension that he served, like 194 games for a violation of domestic violence / sex assault policy, which he has denied misconduct and he was not charged. Um, so, it's going to take someone who doesn't mind, the swirl that would be around him and his signing, and is willing to take a risk. And I think Trevor would tell you there'll be no risk. So I just want the
Right.
veteran minimum, and I'll come and I'll pitch, and I won't cause trouble. If you want me to even put out there, oh, you want me to give up my social media, I will, whatever. Um, I asked him a couple of starts ago, how frustrated are you about this? And he said he's so over the frustration. And, I don't know. I don't know that when you're pitching this well at this level and you want to be in the major leagues and in your head you could still, or you think you could still do it, I would be frustrated. So, so I don't know if the Rangers would be that team. He Trevor Bauer claims he's blackballed by Major League Baseball, that he's not allowed to play, and that there's something going on here. And everyone with half a brain, he said the other day when I talked to him, knows what's going on. And so I don't know. I don't know. It's going to take someone who's maybe in their own mind is not risk adverse, and will think that any PR repercussions would blow over.
And here's the thing: it's not like you have to trade anybody for him. It's just a transactional thing, and PR nightmare or not, the Mets brought back Jose Reyes. Ozuna is in the league somehow. It's not like he's Wally Backman, where you're afraid about the PR nightmare of someone that's a manager or someone on the major league staff or someone in the front office. And I get all that, certainly. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, whether or not it's something. And it's not about me anyway. I mean, if you're a team and you need pitching, there's plenty of examples. If anybody's going to give you the business for signing a Trevor Bauer, all you have to do is say, look, we've looked at everything, and he says he's going to be on his best behavior, and if he's not, he's gone. Like, I don't understand. To me, I don't understand. Like, I get it. Maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's not. I don't know. I don't know the man. I know that whatever the situation is, where it is legally right now, Major League Baseball is very odd, and more so than the other sports, Brian, when it comes to signing these guys. And I think if he stays the course, perhaps with the Ducks, and as we get closer to the trade deadline, maybe one of these teams, maybe Texas, as Peter pointed out, and I didn't even think of that, Pete. That's a great point. But you don't sense. You said that he's over the frustration. You don't sense that, like if he doesn't get, do you think he'll stick with the Ducks, Brian, for the rest of the season?
I would be surprised that he would walk away from it. He wanted, he's been. I called him like the exiled king of social media in my story today, because he's in exile on Long Island because he wants to be in the major leagues. But he was really in exile the last 3 years because he pitched in Japan and he pitched very well. Then he went to Mexico. He was 10-0. Then he went back to Japan last season. He wasn't that great.
Right.
But now he's pitching very well again. He wanted, this was his option. He said they said he had other options, in these partner leagues or whatever to come. But he chose here, and this is his chance to pitch again in front of American fans, and he seems to enjoy at least the interaction with people. And if you come to the ballpark, as he will tell you, and as I will tell you, it's supportive atmosphere. And, I think he kind of likes that. He gets the pitch. He has a kind of a jumping off point for all his social media to do and to give his tips, because he says he wants to make the training landscape better for younger pitchers now. But I'll tell you, at the online, he's a lightning rod, and like I'll post things, and there'll be like debates forming, comments like pro Trevor and
Right.
anti Trevor, considering the case that he went through. And I talked to a law professor in the last few days who's just observing the situation, and he called him extremely polarizing. And yet this is kind of a chance to the fans that are down on him and anybody else to kind of change the narrative about him. And he has to do it quickly. He's 35 years old, and eventually, your age is held against you. So we'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't rule it out, and I wouldn't rule it in. Not sure what's going to happen.
Well, I could certainly speak to how well he's gotten along with the fans, especially the kids. Being at the opening night game with my family, we were sitting a few rows behind the Ducks dugout. Remember, he's pitching that night, but he comes back to the dugout, and these kids are going up to the dugout, including my younger one, and they're talking to him about his videos, and he's talking back, and he's smiling. And you mentioned the lines for the autographs. He's doing it again tonight. In fact, they're giving away Trevor Bauer posters at the game tonight. He's going to pitch again on Sunday. And again, I don't know the guy, as Mark said before. I just know what I see in front of me. I see he's pitching well. I see that the fans are accepting him, especially on social media. So it's mind-boggling to me that there hasn't been one team, with the lack of pitching around Major League Baseball, that there's not one franchise that has given this guy a chance.
I agree, because they have taken other players, as we've said, with kind of incidents in their past, and it was not a Colin Kaepernick life sentence for them. So yeah, I mean, everybody needs pitching. The Mets
Yeah,
could use pitching, so and there's
right.
plenty of teams like them that could use pitching. So if he continues to pitch well, we'll see. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very hard. It's very hard to say because, and we don't know what's going on to a certain
right.
extent behind the scenes
Sure.
with teams. He's claimed he's talked to teams and that he thought he had a deal, and then something gets kiboshed at the last second, and then he thinks he's blackballed from
Yeah.
playing Major
Well,
League Baseball.
like Wally Backman went through that, and I talked to Wally a lot. I interviewed Wally many times, advocated for Wally over the years, and uh, it's like one of those things where once somebody decides somewhere that it's not going to work, but look, and again, it's different. It's different for a manager or coach or front office person. It just is. Whether you want to be like, well, it shouldn't be. Yeah, I know, I get it. But for a player, it's different. And and again, I'm not advocating for or against Trevor Bauer here. All I look at is the fairness, and the fairness. I see precedents where teams have forgiven, guys' pasts and given them a second chance. And I'm a big believer in second chances. And again, I'm not going to advocate for Trevor, but what I will say this: if he's doing everything right, and he's trying to create this situation where he's making it easy for a team to take a chance on him, I think it's perfectly reasonable to have that conversation. But we're running out of time. We're right up against the clock, Brian. I want to thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy working day to spend some time with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Any time. Happy to be here with you guys.
Thanks, Brian. I'll see you at the ballpark one of these days. Next time we're there both there when Trevor Bauer is pitching.
That would be great, Pete. Thanks very much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
And Brian brought out some great points. You brought out some great points. It's definitely one of those situations where you can make arguments for and against. And sometimes, here's the thing: my experience as a journalist and digging into these stories and trying to figure out, trying to figure out, where these guys are and what they're doing. You find stuff out where like they'll never release that information. They won't, and even if it helps them justify whatever decision they've made. And I've found out quite a few things about other players and other people who have wanted to manage and things like that. And I can't even publish them, because of whatever NDAs or whatever legal, tomfoolery is going on, Pete. So, I certainly understand, the people that are advocating for Trevor. And I certainly understand why people would have a problem with it. But at the same time, I don't think you could have this hypocrisy where you say it's okay for one guy, but for somebody else, it's verboten. I mean, I know where you stand. I mean, you think that's a reasonable take?
Yeah, no, I think it's a reasonable take. Look, did he make a bad decision, putting himself in a bad, situation? You always try and not put yourself in a bad situation, whether it's what he went through or anything in life. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation, but he did it. And whether he was guilty or not, he never got charged with it. We've been talking about it, guys that have done worse or guys that have gotten in trouble, drugs, domestic violence, whatever it is, they've all been given, second chances. So
Right.
Again, I don't know him personally. I've got no skin in the game, but I just know from what I've seen, he's pitched well. He's interacted well with the fans and with his teammates. And look, it's created a little bit more buzz for the Ducks too. I mean, it's already been a fun place to go to. I mean, I've gone there for 25, 26 years now, both as a fan and also now working for the team as a PA announcer. So it's already a fun, electric place to go to. And now he's added a little bit to it. By the way, The other night walking, I did 3 straight nights of PA, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Wednesday night walking out of the car. If you ever wondered what happens to a foul ball when it leaves Fairfield Properties Ballpark and you don't know where it went, well, it wound up landing in the parking lot. So I got a little souvenir from the game the other night.
Nice. That's awesome.
So there you
All
go.
right. Well, Peter, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Subway Series. Hopefully, when we're talking about the Mets and Yankees next week, I will have a big smile on my face and you will be miserable. No, I'm kidding.
I just want Cam Schlittler. I think the Mets will win 2 out of 3. I just want Cam Schlittler to win tonight.
I do not. So I will talk to you next week, buddy. Have a great weekend. And my best to the family, my friend.
Take care, Mark. Thanks.